Today we're talking about love. How is it that God loves us? Romeo loves Juliet. My son loves Fortnite, and I love nachos. How are all of those things true? Welcome to the Martyr Life. I'm Jared. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're going to talk about love. So when I say love, what comes to your mind? Is it romance or tacos or your grandma? What is it that triggers in your brain when I use the word love? Part of our problem, I think, today is that we equate love with just romance, and that is a part of love. It is a sliver of what love is, but it is not comprehensively love. One of the things that we're going to talk about a lot ongoing throughout all of this is how we get really kind of specific on a section of something that is huge. It's complex, it's big. And yet we kind of sum it up with only a part of what it is. It's like saying that a car is just the engine. But if you have just an engine, you don't have a full car. That is an essential part of it, but it isn't all of it. It still needs wheels and axles and things that I don't know about because I'm not super into cars. So I don't know why I used a car analogy, but we all are very familiar with cars. And so that's why we went there. You can't take one little piece of something and claim it to be the whole of it. We have to see it from bigger perspectives and different sides, and then we start to get the completeness of it. You know, humans are incredibly complex. We are not simple little creatures. We have an incredible depth of the way we do things, and we're complex and we're messy. And for us to think a concept so big as love can only fit in the box of a romance is very narrow-minded and very shallow. So today I want to go through how the depth of love and why it's so important, because this is a fundamental of the martyr life, of Christianity, of, I think, humanity. That love is a fundamental part of who we are and how God made us to be. And we need love, and we need to be able to give love. And I think that that's a huge aspect of being a human. And I think it's important that we get this right. So let's look at it a little bit further. When people talk about being in love, typically, again, let's remember that we're talking about a bell curve here, right? There's always going to be fringe cases, stuff on the edges that doesn't totally work, but in the bell curve of the majority of cases, when people say they're in love, what they actually mean is that they have attraction to somebody, that they get butterflies when that person is around, or they're very interested in that person. And let's be completely clear here. I am not saying that that is a bad thing. I'm not against that. I experienced the same thing. My wife and I go way back, and I absolutely love that part. That is the dessert side of romance, where they're getting butterflies. It's super exciting. Like, endorphins are just flooding your brain all the time. It's fantastic. But that is a very small sliver of a very shallow chunk of the depth that is love. There's attraction, and that draws two people together, but at some point attraction stops being enough. And to sum all of love up in being attracted to somebody and being interested in someone and being drawn to somebody is a huge disservice to love, because it's so much more than that. let's talk about different levels of love. There's things like attraction, it's like good chemistry, like you jive with somebody pretty well. Then there's like the next step of kind of like infatuation, where you're kind of like really interested to somebody. And then you can get into that like sort of and then like, and there's, probably several levels with more additional likes added on into the description of like, because that's how we make sure that a word is true, is we repeat it a couple of times. And then all the way down through here, and now we get to love, like deep love. In the Bible, there's a lot of words for love. There's several that mean sort of a family love, like you love your brother or you love your parents, like you love. There's agape love, which is so much deeper, and it's unconditional, and it's given in a way that is sacrificial. So in this depth of love, I only covered romance, which is, again, a very small chunk of what love truly is. That's the part that we get, we romanticize the most, is romantic love. Wow, that is really true. But to make the totality of love be just romance is a huge disservice to love, and it puts our frame of reference for when God says to love our enemies, and when he says to show love to the brothers, and to that love conquers all, and that of the greatest of the three of love, faith, and hope, love is the most important. I've done a lot of work with a retirement community, and I've seen a lot of couples in late stages of life, have been married for 50 years, 60 years, and watching so many of them interact has been really interesting, because at some point they were young and hot, and they just were like super attracted to each other, and that was like the best thing in the world. And now, let's be honest, they aren't that attractive anymore. Gravity has had its effect. Age has had its effect. The oxidization of their bodies has taken a toll. And yet, to watch a husband lead his wife down to lunch and to take her to places that she needs to go because she's not doing as good, and he is taking care of her, it really is one of the most beautiful things in a relationship, to see a wife just caring for her husband who's in a wheelchair and he can't get out. And it's not done out of like, well, this is the only thing we've got and I can do nothing left. But you can tell the love and the care and the just the sacrificial heart of taking care of the person that you care about the most in the entire world. And it is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I also think about a mother taking care of her special needs son, or any parent really, or a grandparent that's taking in their grandkids because the parents are out of the picture for whatever reason. How does that love stack up to romance? Is that we don't romanticize that kind of love, because it's not like fun and exciting and cool and all of, it's not necessarily movie worthy, but it is essential to life. It is what makes life worth living, is that kind of depth. When a parent is taking care of a special needs kid, it's not glamorous, it's not sexy, it's not the coolest in the world, but it is genuinely the depth of being human, and caring for another person like that is so beautiful. And that is part of what love is. See, I think that love costs you no matter what. When you are loving someone, when you love and you give of yourself into that relationship, and it is a sacrifice sometimes, it's a gift, it is literally giving of yourself in that love. And whether that's a romance or Not, back to the mom with special needs son. She's literally sacrificing so much of her life to care for her son. It's a love that's being poured out. This isn't for her. This is for her son. It's for someone else. And that's where romance love gets a little trickier, because a lot of times we have to be very careful, because a lot of times that kind of love borders on, it's more for me than it is for them, and that's it. We got to be careful with that. So am I saying that anytime that you're in love with someone, that you have to sacrifice everything and you don't matter and all? No, nope, 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 nope. That is not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that when you genuinely love someone, it costs you something. And sometimes that what it costs you is vulnerability. See, you can't have love and not be vulnerable. It's brutal. But that vulnerability, where the masks come off, where you stop pretending, when you're being real, that is the depth, the intimacy of love, is when you can let your guard down and be real with someone. It takes so much bravery. It takes so much strength to be in that place. And it isn't something that we should do lightly. People have to have earned that vulnerability. You have to build that relationship there. But that's part of the sacrifice of love, is that it is scary, and it puts vulnerability, and taking that mask off is you opening yourself up to be judged and hurt and offended. And the people closest to you can hurt you the most, because when you're vulnerable, you don't have your armor up. You don't have your shields up. So if I was to cut my chest open and expose my heart, the same flick that doesn't hurt my face, but directly onto my heart would be devastating, and it would probably hurt a lot. I can't say for sure, but I would wage that it would probably be pretty devastating. When we go into a relationship, and when I say relationship, I don't just mean a romantic relationship. I mean any relationship. When you go into a relationship and you expose your heart, when you're able to just drop that mask and be real with someone, that person has the potential to be able to hurt you more. And unintentionally, because it doesn't take much, and it hurts. If we peel back the layers of what it means to be a human, what humans thrive on, what the source of a lot of problems and anger and frustrations, I think all of humanity can start to be summed up well in loving and being loved. I think that's what we were meant to do, is that we were meant to care for each other, and we were meant to be cared by someone else, and someone's else, honestly. I think that is a good sum up. And now again, at the beginning of this talk, I was telling you that we shouldn't make the totality of a sliver of something be everything. Again, humans are complicated and it's messy. But if we peel back a bunch of layers, I think that we can find a fundamental foundation of wanting to be loved and needing to love others. Now, when talking about love, I think one of the other things that we need to do is consider what love isn't, and that helps us narrow it down a little bit. See, everybody thinks that the opposite of love is hate, and that is pretty true. But there's another opposite of love. It's sort of like an anti-love, and this is gonna really mess with a lot of people, and you're gonna be upset about this, so just brace yourselves. The opposite of love is lust. Now, lust is me wanting something for myself. And you can kind of think about this sort of like outflow arrows with love. The love is given, the love is flowing out. Lust is sort of the opposite. It's like a vacuum. It's like lust takes. Lust thinks only of itself in this process. Is that I want you, but not for your benefit. I want you for my benefit. It's about me, and it's that inward flow to back to myself than it is that outward flow to others. What was it that you thought about when I said, what is love? What was the first thing that came to mind? Now, I want you to hold that in your mind, and I want you to ask yourself, is this because of them? Am I thinking about love with this person because I'm giving or because I'm getting? That's a tough thing to evaluate. And we have to really double check ourselves, because sometimes that is, it's actually more lust than it is love. And we want to walk in love. Love isn't just a feeling. It's not just the butterflies. That's attraction. That's a very high top, shallow depth of what love really is. Love is a choice. And sometimes when we're dealing with people that aren't very lovable, sometimes the ultimate demonstration of love is to still love that person. Like I mentioned earlier, and we'll probably do an entire episode on this, God said to love our enemies, to literally care for them, to show kindness to people, to pray for people who are spitefully using us. That's love. It's giving out. It's a sacrifice to not just be selfish, but to let God's love fill me to be able to give out. Love is oftentimes a place to belong. It's that community. It's knowing that you are cared for. It's knowing that you're seen. That is love. And making sure that you are making that space available for other people to know that they're loved, to know that they're cared for, that they're seen. This is how we walk out a world where we care for others, is that we understand, well, it feels really great when I'm seen. It feels really great when I'm loved and I'm cared for and I have that community. So how are you making that space available for others in your life? How are you giving them space to be able to feel that love and acceptance and know that they're seen? Love is a marathon. It lasts for a long time. It goes for a long time. It sticks through everything for as long as it can, and as long as is healthy for it to. Love cares about others. It pours out. What's interesting to me is that compassion is sort of like a sprint. Is that I'm moved right now with love for someone or something or a group of people, and something needs to be done about it. And so it's a sprint, like something has to happen right now. Whereas love is sort of this like slow and steady, always there, striving, driving, being there and pursuing, and unrelenting and unconditional. That's how I see love, and I think that is what would help us all. I know it's important to me to know that I'm loved and cared for, and that's super important. Love endures, love cares, love sees. Love doesn't walk away. With that said, I do need to make sure that we hit on boundaries real quick, because boundaries are important. If you're being abused, if you are not safe, you can love from a distance, and it is important to have boundaries when you're not safe. I am not saying that you should always just give all of yourself and never care for yourself and never be worried about any of that and never like take care of anything else. Like, you need to take care of you. That is very important. We give with our love, but we also don't give to the point where we have exhausted. And at some point, we'll get to another episode where we talk about that self-care. It is extremely important to know your limits and to know what you're able and not able to do. So when it comes to love, you do need to be aware of boundaries. Being seen and creating that space for others to be seen is absolutely huge. That is community. There's a lot of studies on how trauma and the the pressures and stress of life goes down when we have a community, when we have people that we know we can call on. And if you're not feeling that, if you don't think that you have that community, you need to start cultivating that community and opening up the space for other people to be vulnerable, because it's scary. It's scary. There's chance of rejection, and that nobody wants to go through that, and it hurts, and it leaves you open to being really hurt and really judged. It's difficult. I'm not saying this is easy, but it is essential, and it's how we get through life, is that we have that community and we cultivate that community. Open up the possibilities and evaluate what love could be in your life and where it needs to go. I'm not the end all be all for information. What do you think that love should be? How do you sum it up? And how do you describe it in a comprehensive way that isn't just one part of it? How can you do that? I want you to think about that, and I would love to hear what you're thinking about how it works and what you think it is. One of the foundational pieces of the Martyr Life is love, and we are going to harp on that. We're going to go through that over and over and over again, because love is so important. It's foundationally part of what it means to be human. Let's keep talking about love, okay? Thank you so much for spending this time with me. It's great hanging out with you. I absolutely love it, and I appreciate you hanging around. So don't forget, you are not alone, and welcome to the Martyr Life.